What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm talking about MacBooks, and more specifically the new M1 Pro MacBook Pro and the M1 Max MacBook Pro. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, new MacBook Pros got released a few weeks ago and they received pretty positive reviews from reviewers in the community as a whole. So I did some digging, and after researching a little bit, I decided to finally go and pick one up for myself. This is the base level 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro chip inside of it. Now, I've been using this laptop for about the past couple of days or so, and in today's video, I just want to give you guys some of my initial impressions, and also I want to talk a little bit about why you probably shouldn't buy this laptop. Now, I should preface this before we get into some of the design and just some of my overall impressions. This is a really nice laptop. It is really good. I have enjoyed using this laptop over the past couple of days, but there are a few things that we need to talk about and discuss. So let's first start with the design and build quality. Now, I really do like the build quality of this model. It is really sturdy. It feels very solid in the hand. And then I love this hinge. There's no wobbliness, there's no squeakiness to it whatsoever. It's a really solid hinge. I also love the size, so I decided to go with the 14-inch model after trying to find one was so difficult, but I decided to finally go with that model because it's very easy to travel with. Sometimes I am trying to do editing on the go and it fits perfectly inside of my camera bag, but also it's not too small where you won't be able to see anything and actually work on the computer screen. So I did choose the 14-inch model and it's perfectly sized for me, but if you want something a little bigger, you can go for the 16. Now, this laptop is not too heavy at all. It actually is about 3.5 pounds or so. It is a little bit chunkier and beefier than what I'm used to, seeing that I primarily have used Chromebooks in the past, but I migrated over to this particular laptop because I wanted to start editing videos on the go. So that's a pretty decent concession to be able to have this much power in such a tiny machine. Now, I will say the only qualm that I have so far in using it has been the flat edge that's on the front of it. Aesthetically, it is very pleasing. It does look nice, but I noticed as I was typing that I would start to get like the ridge digging into my palm, and that got to be a little bit uncomfortable. But I also can use it as a workstation and get a third-party keyboard or even the Apple Magic Keyboard to type on. So I don't see that being a huge deal, but it just was something I noticed in using it in this short amount of time. And then the last thing I'll mention about the design, I'm sure you probably noticed as I've been holding it up, it is attracting fingerprints really easily, and this is just me trying to handle it just a little bit. I did clean it off right before I started recording this video, and as you can see, fingerprints galore. It does have a matte finish, but it's really picking up those fingerprints pretty harsh, so that's just something I guess I have to get used to, or I may just grab a dbrand skin and slap it on there and see if that helps a little bit as well. All right, the other thing that I have really been enjoying about this is different than the other laptops that Apple sells, particularly their other MacBook series, because of the ports. And I think that is something so important to talk about, especially if you are a creator like myself, because Apple went back and added ports, something that most laptops have. But I'm glad that they did it. I'm glad that they're here. On the left side, you do have the MagSafe charger port. You have 3 total USB-C or Thunderbolt 4 ports. There is a headphone jack, and then my favorite port that you have, there is an SD card reader. So that makes it very easy to port media over to your laptop. And then there also is an HDMI port for plugging in other monitors, so on and so on. I do believe you can use up to 3 monitors through this one port at one time. It's not the latest technology when it comes to HDMI ports, but it is good enough to be able to use an external monitor. So I haven't had any issues with that, and so far it's been pretty good. And the other thing I'll say about this is I'm not a huge audiophile, but the simple fact that they included a headphone jack is really good because it is supposed to be for high impedance headphones. So I guess there was this thing where if you wanted to use really nice headphones on a laptop, you'd have to plug in an external DAC to be able to get the power that you needed. Well, now with this headphone jack, you should be able to plug those high impedant headphones straight into the laptop and not have a need for an external DAC. So it does help with portability overall. All right, so I want to move on and I want to talk about the display. This is a really nice display. I have been enjoying it since I've been using it. Now, it is a liquid retina display XDR, which if you've used any of Apple's XDR displays or any other products with those displays, you know that they're very good. They're very vibrant. They have this true tone technology in it that's supposed to be very color accurate, which most people don't care about, but since I've been using it, it is really great. It does have a resolution of 3024 by 1964, which is, I guess, technically 4K. It's a weird resolution, but it's plenty sharp, gets really bright. I've used it indoors and outdoors and haven't had any issues, so I am absolutely in love with this display. And I'm really looking forward to testing it when I do color correction or I'm doing video editing. So I'll test that out and then get back with you guys and let you know how I'm enjoying it. You can follow me over on Twitter. Here's my handle here. Or you can follow me on Instagram and we can have a little discussion and talk about it. But the other thing I want to talk about is this 120 Hertz variable refresh rate. Now, I talked about it briefly when I did my Pixel review, and we talked about how great the screen was supposed to be on that phone because of the variable refresh rate, being able to ramp up to 120 Hertz and then drop down when it's not needed. So far, as I've been using this laptop, I haven't really noticed that. I haven't noticed it dropping down, but everything has been pretty fluid and pretty smooth for the most part. And then some of the small, like, nitpicky things that I've run into have mainly been with certain apps that may not be optimized for this display or the M1 Pro chip yet. So I'm hoping with software updates, we'll see this get better with time and more apps will be able to take advantage of it. But briefly, we have to talk about the notch. I don't understand or really like the notch, and I'm not sure why Apple keeps adding it to their products. Now, I understand it's iconic, like it is easy to spot an iPhone because of that notch, and maybe they did it because of brand recognition, but aesthetically it's just not very pleasing. It is a huge notch, and to my knowledge, all that's being housed behind there is a 1080p camera and a few microphones. So I don't know if Apple was intending on adding Face ID and they just didn't get to it in time to be able to put it in this model. On the plus side, I can say that it does disappear when you are playing media, so whether it's a YouTube or a Netflix video, you really don't notice it. And then most apps tend to put that black bar at the top anyway. So it does disappear, but if you're using a pretty vibrant wallpaper, it does show up, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. I mean, if you don't mind it, cool, but I still don't understand why they keep putting the notch in these things. And then lastly, I'll just briefly touch on performance because I haven't really had an opportunity to really put these to the full test. I did immediately go into DaVinci Resolve and just start playing around with some things that I may normally use. I will say that in my small amount of testing, this laptop has held up pretty well. It's been able to play my media back without hardly any delay, if any, and I mean very little delay. And I have been able to start using Fusion titles or titles in general in my videos, if you notice, because previously I was using this behemoth iMac from 2012 behind me, and that's what I've been using to produce all of my content so far, and it was not cutting it. So to be able to do those things on this MacBook has been really exciting and really fun. And just being able to create without being hindered by hardware is really refreshing. So I don't think you have to worry about slowdown. Here's some of the specs for this Apple M1 Pro chip, and I will post also some for the M1 Pro Max if you decide to go that route. But they are pretty impressive. I don't dive huge into specs. I care more about how does it perform on a day-to-day basis. And so far there hasn't really been any hiccups. So I'm pretty pleased. So at the outset of the video, I said I wanted to talk about why you probably shouldn't buy this laptop, why you shouldn't buy this computer. And it really is because of this interesting experience that I had with someone a couple days ago. I was in Best Buy and looking at all of these MacBooks, trying to figure out which one was right for me. I looked at the MacBook Air, I looked at last year's version of the MacBook Pro before I finally settled on this one. And a guy comes up to me and he's like, I'm buying a laptop for my wife, it's their anniversary, and I just want to get her something nice. So I asked him, I said, well, what is her workflow like? Does she do photo or video editing? Does she do gaming? Does she do coding? And he was like, no, she just scrolls Facebook, gets on Netflix, opens email, things of that nature. And because Apple is very good at their marketing, people automatically feel like they need to go out and just buy the most expensive beastly machine, when 9 times out of 10 they're not going to use half of the features on there and they're just going to waste their money. At the end of the day, this is a great laptop. I really do enjoy it, but it is also $1,000 more than the MacBook Air, and the MacBook Air does have the M1 chip in it as well. I just don't see a reason for the average person to go out and get themselves a MacBook Pro. But if you are a content creator, by all means, this should be the laptop that you go with, just because you're going to be able to do so much on it. And I'm so excited to get into the nitty-gritty of it and possibly review it in the future. But for the average person, if you want a laptop and you want to go with Apple, get yourself a MacBook Air. It's going to be plenty fast for whatever you have to do. And in true Apple fashion, it's going to last you about a good 4 or 5 years anyway. So you're going to get plenty of value out of it. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with anything that I said? If you have the MacBook Pro, the new ones, what has been your impression so far? As always, remember to please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I go live with a new video. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.